I'm Jack Morgan, 58 years old, and 3 days before Christmas, my life collapsed in the span of 1 hour. First came the meeting HR, a forced smile, a folder on the table, and just like that, after 27 years in the industry, I was told my position was no longer essential. I walked out stunned, numb from more than just the cold December air. On the drive home, I texted my girlfriend, Emily Parker, hoping for comfort. Instead, she replied with a single line that hit harder than the layoff itself. I can't live with an unemployed loser. And just like that, she ended our relationship. No conversation, no hesitation, just a clean cut because my paycheck wasn't coming in. What she didn't know was that a $200,000 bonus and a new executive job offer were already headed my way. Weeks later, when she saw what my life became, she begged for a second chance. My answer destroyed her. The morning it all happened didn't feel unusual at first. Winter sunlight spilled through my kitchen window, catching the steam from my coffee, and for a moment I let myself enjoy the quiet. At 58, routine becomes a kind of comfort. You cling to it without realizing how fragile it is. I grabbed my coat, locked the door behind me, and drove to the office thinking it would be another long, predictable Thursday. But the second I walked in, something felt wrong. People avoided eye contact. Conversations dropped when I passed. And then I saw the email, "Jack, please stop by conference room B at 9:15. No subject line, no explanation, just that. After nearly 3 decades in this field, I knew what it meant before I even opened the door. Sarah, our HR manager, sat on one side of the table. My director, Mark, sat on the other. Both wore that tight expression people use when they're about to ruin your day but want to pretend they're sympathetic. "Jack," Sarah began, folding her hands as if that made the news gentler, "the company is restructuring. Your position is being eliminated effective today." That word eliminated always sounds like something you do to pests, not people who've given their whole adult lives to a company. I just sat there, nodding slowly, listening to phrases like, "not performance-related," "transition package," and, "thank you for your years of service." They slid a folder toward me like it contained a consolation prize. For a moment, my vision blurred, not because I was emotional, but because everything in my life had abruptly shifted 10 inches to the left. When I walked out of the room, carrying that stupid folder, I didn't feel angry. I felt hollow. Like someone had quietly scooped out something vital inside me. The December cold hit me hard as I stepped outside. My breath came out in visible bursts, and it felt like the world was reminding me I wasn't insulated anymore, not by a job, not by security, not by the life I thought I still had. I sat in my car for a long minute before starting the engine. The holiday lights strung across the parking lot blinked cheerfully, completely indifferent to the fact that my life had just been knocked off its foundation. Everyone else was preparing for Christmas. I was preparing to figure out what the hell came next. On the drive home, I thought about Emily, my girlfriend of almost 2 years. She'd always said she admired my stability, my discipline, the way I had my life together. I told myself she'd understand. She'd reassure me. She'd remind me this was just a setback. So I texted her. "Got out of a meeting. Need to talk. Call me when you can." She replied instantly. "Busy." "What's wrong?" I hesitated, then wrote back. "I got laid off today." I expected sympathy. I expected concern. I expected something human. But all I got was silence, cold, heavy, telling silence. The kind that says more than any sentence could. And I didn't know it yet, but that silence was about to become the real reason my life changed. Driving home, I kept glancing at my phone, waiting for Emily to respond. I wasn't expecting a parade or a miracle, just a simple, "Are you okay?" But 30 minutes passed. Nothing. That silence grew heavier the closer I got to my house, settling in my chest like wet cement. When I finally parked, the phone buzzed. "Emily, are you serious?" No greeting. No sympathy. Just annoyance wrapped in disbelief. I took a breath and typed, "Yeah." It was sudden. "I'll explain more when." Her reply came before I finished the sentence. "I can't do this, Jack." Those 5 words hit harder than the layoff itself. I stepped into my house but didn't take off my coat. I just stood there, staring at the screen, watching her typing bubble appear and disappear, as if she was debating how cruel to be. Then another message arrived. "I can't live with someone who doesn't have their life together. I need stability." I blinked at the phone, stunned. After everything, that's where her mind went. Not concern. Not compassion. Money. Just money. I called her immediately. She didn't let it ring twice. Her voice was colder than the December air outside. "Jack, I'm sorry, but I can't build a life with someone who's starting over at your age." "My age?" I repeated quietly. "Yes. You're 58, Jack. You don't just bounce back overnight. I need a partner who can provide. Someone solid. Someone predictable." "I was all those things yesterday," I said. "And today you're not," she snapped. "I've been thinking about this anyway. You've been stagnating, and now you've hit a setback. I'm not wasting time on someone who might not recover." Recover. She said it like I'd contracted a disease. "And an unemployed man," she paused, as if considering a more polite option, then didn't bother. "An unemployed loser is not someone I can be with." That word. Loser. Funny how a single word can cut deeper at 58 than it ever did at 28. "Wow," I said quietly. "After 2 years, that's what I am to you?" "It's nothing personal," she said, as if she were canceling a lunch plan. "I just can't tie my life to someone unstable. Good luck, Jack." And she hung up. For a long moment, I stood completely still. The house felt colder. Emptier. I felt the sting not of losing her, but of finally understanding exactly what I meant to her. I wasn't a partner. I was a paycheck with legs. After a minute, I exhaled, hung up my coat, and walked to the kitchen. A strange calm settled over minute numbness, not denial, just clarity. Emily broke up with me because of a situation she didn't even stop to understand, a situation she didn't know the full story of. I opened my laptop to check my email, not for work, but because earlier that morning, before the meeting from hell, I'd received a notification I hadn't had time to read. It was from my former company's finance department. Year-end performance distribution, final approval attached. I clicked it. And there it was, a $200,000 bonus payout, automatically processed, scheduled to hit my bank account within 48 hours. The company had been acquired earlier in the year, and my role, despite being eliminated, still qualified for the buyout bonus. $200,000. I laughed, not out of joy, but disbelief at the timing. Emily had dumped me over money. She didn't even wait a full hour before packing her dignity into a text message and hitting send. And she had no idea that the man she just threw away was about to walk into the next chapter of his life with resources, options, and a future she was too short-sighted to see. That's when another email popped up, this one from Linda Brooks, CEO of Crescent Dominion Enterprises. The subject line: Formal offer attached, Executive Strategy Director. My future wasn't collapsing. It was rearranging itself. And Emily had removed herself from it right before everything became better than before. That evening, I sat alone in my living room, the Christmas lights still plugged in from the night before, soft, warm, and completely out of place. They felt like decorations from someone else's life, someone who still had a partner, a job, and a future that looked the same in the morning as it did the night before. I poured myself a glass of bourbon, sat at the kitchen table, and let the silence settle. Not grief. Not heartbreak. Just silence, the kind that comes when reality shifts and you're still catching up to it. I kept replaying Emily's words in my head, I can't live with an unemployed loser. She said it without hesitation, without softness, without even the decency to pretend she cared about what I was feeling. But the more I replayed it, the more another thought crept in. If she could throw me away this easily, maybe she wasn't really mine to lose. I spent the next morning doing what any man trying to rebuild his footing would do: made coffee, put on music, and opened a notebook. I wrote down everything I needed to take care of over the next few weeks. Transfer the $200,000 bonus when it arrived. Finalize the contract with Crescent Dominion. Decide whether to move apartments. Review insurance, savings, investments. Call Tom Walker for financial planning. It wasn't an emotional list. It was a map. A way back to myself. But just as I began to regain some sense of stability, my phone buzzed. A message from Emily's friend, Jenna. I hadn't spoken to Jenna in months. She wasn't someone who reached out without reason. "Hey Jack, I just wanted to check on you. Emily told us about the breakup. I'm really sorry." I stared at the message, brows raised. Us? Breakup? Emily was already telling people. I replied politely. "Thanks, Jenna. I'm all right." She responded almost immediately. "I don't want to get in the middle of things, but Emily told everyone you were financially wiped out. She said you couldn't pay your mortgage, that your company didn't give you severance, and that she had no choice but to leave." I leaned back in my chair, blinking. So that was the story. Not that she panicked. Not that she valued money over love. Not that she walked out within an hour of hearing bad news. She was rewriting the narrative so she could play the victim. I typed slowly. "That's not accurate." Jenna replied. "I figured. Just wanted you to know people don't believe her. We know you. We know you." It was strange how comforting those words felt. Later that afternoon, I got another message, this time from Emily's cousin, Derek. "Man, sorry about the breakup. Emily said things got really bad for you financially. Hope you're holding up." I didn't have the energy to correct him. Not yet. I just wrote. "I'm doing fine, Derek. But thanks." Because I was fine. More than fine, actually. But none of them needed to know that. Not yet. Christmas Eve arrived, and for the first time in my life, I spent it completely alone. No dinner plans. No gifts exchanged. No car rides to family gatherings. I heated a small ham in the oven, opened a bottle of wine, and watched the snow fall through my living room window. It should have felt depressing. Oddly, it didn't. There was a comforting simplicity to it: no expectations, no pressure to perform happiness, no one judging whether I was enough. Just me. Me and the realization that the person who should have stood with me during a storm had sprinted for shelter the moment it sprinkled. That night, as midnight approached, I stepped outside. The neighborhood was quiet, blanketed in snow. I looked up at the sky and exhaled a long breath that felt like it had been trapped inside me for years. Emily was gone. My job was gone. My future, as I knew it, was gone. But something else had arrived in its place, something unfamiliar but promising. Freedom. Freedom to rebuild. Freedom to choose differently. Freedom to stop carrying people who only held on to me when the climb was easy. And I had no idea that this quiet, lonely Christmas would be the beginning of a comeback Emily would regret more deeply than anything she'd ever done. 2 weeks after Christmas, the $200,000 bonus landed in my account. I stared at the number for a long moment, not out of excitement but out of disbelief at the timing. Life has a strange sense of humor. Emily left because she thought I had nothing, when in reality I had more stability coming my way than ever before. The next week, I signed my contract with Crescent Dominion. Executive Strategy Director. Better pay. Better hours. A team I'd actually get to build from scratch. Tom, my friend, insisted we celebrate. New chapter, Jack, he said. You survived a storm that wasn't even your fault. Maybe I had. By the second week of January, I felt lighter. I began cleaning out old files, reorganizing my home, cooking more, walking more. It wasn't reinvention, it was rediscovery. For the first time in years, I felt like I was living for myself, not for someone else's expectations. That's why, on a cold Saturday morning, I decided to visit a small cafe downtown. A place Emily and I used to go, before I realized she loved the image of us more than the reality. I shouldn't have gone there. But fate or something close to it had plans. The first thing I saw when I pulled into the parking lot wasn't the cafe. It was Emily. She stood outside, bundled in a tan coat, scrolling through her phone. Next to her was her sister, Mia. The two of them were laughing about something, completely unaware that my car had just turned into the lot. My car. A brand new silver Lexus RX, purchased outright with a small slice of the bonus. Practical, comfortable, reliable, everything my life had not been a month ago. Emily glanced up. Her eyes went straight to the car. I watched her expression shift, confusion, recognition, shock. Then she saw me step out. Her mouth parted slightly. She froze. I gave a polite nod and headed toward the cafe entrance. Nothing more. No confrontation, no bitterness. Just distance, the kind she had chosen. But Emily called after me. Jack. I stopped. Her voice, it wasn't cold this time. It was soft, almost careful. I turned around slowly. She walked toward me, her sister a few steps behind, uncomfortable and trying not to watch. Hi, Emily said. Wow. You look good. I am good, I replied. Thanks. She hesitated, scanning the Lexus again. Then her eyes returned to mine. That's a new car. Yes. It's nice, she said, her voice wavering slightly. Really nice. I raised an eyebrow. It works. She swallowed hard, then tucked a strand of hair behind her ear, something she always did when she was nervous. Can we talk for a second? She asked. About what? You know, she whispered, lowering her voice. About us. There is no us, Emily. She winced like I'd slapped her. Well, maybe there could be, she said quickly. I've been thinking a lot, Jack. About what happened. About how I reacted. I wasn't fair to you. I panicked. Money, stability, the future. I just got overwhelmed. You made yourself very clear, I said quietly. I know, she said. And I'm not proud of it. But everyone deserves a second chance, right? There it was. The line people use when they want forgiveness without accountability. I looked at her carefully. Same eyes. Same tone. Same familiar push and pull I'd tolerated for too long. But something was different now. Not in her. In me. What exactly is it you think you deserve a second chance for? I asked calmly. She exhaled shakily. I miss what we had. I miss you. And seeing you today just reminded me of everything we built together. You didn't miss me 3 weeks ago when I needed support, I said. You missed security. That's not the same. Jack, she whispered, eyes glassy now. I made a mistake. A mistake, I repeated. Emily, you called me an unemployed loser. You said I wasn't worth your time because I was starting over at my age. That wasn't fear. That was judgment. She shook her head desperately. I didn't mean it. You know I didn't. I know you meant every word, I said softly. Because that's who you are when things get uncomfortable. Her face flushed red, not from anger, but from realization. Behind her, Mia shifted awkwardly, pretending to check her phone. Emily took a small step closer. Please. Just coffee. Just a conversation. I looked at her hand reaching toward my arm. The same hand that had pointed me to the door the moment my life faltered. No, I said, gently but firmly. I don't rebuild bridges someone else burned. She blinked, stunned. You're serious? She whispered. Completely. She stood there motionless, breath trembling, watching as I stepped past her and walked into the cafe. For the first time in years, I felt nothing but clarity. And as the door closed behind me, I knew one thing with absolute certainty. That moment right there was the beginning of her regret. When I walked out of the cafe that day, coffee in hand and freedom in my lungs, I thought that was the end of it. I thought my no was enough. Emily looked stunned, embarrassed even, and for a moment, I believed she'd simply accept it and move on. I underestimated her. By the time I got home, there was a message waiting for me. Emily, I'm sorry for catching you off guard. I didn't expect to see you today. Can we please talk? I ignored it. 10 minutes later. Please, Jack. I really messed up. Just let me explain. I left the phone on silent, made dinner, and tried to unwind. I thought it would stop there. It didn't. Day 1, the apology storm. That night, she sent 7 more messages, long paragraphs about her childhood, her fear of financial instability, how seeing the Lexus made her realize what a good man I was. Not one message acknowledged the cruelty she'd shown me. Not one. All she said was, I was scared. You know I panic about money. Money. Always money. I blocked her number before going to bed. Day 2, a different number. The next morning, my phone buzzed while I was shaving. Unknown number. Blocking me won't fix anything. I just want closure. Closure. Another word people use when they want access. I sighed and blocked that number too. Later that afternoon, Tom called. You're trending in Emily's circle, he said. Trending? She's telling everyone you bought a luxury car to prove a point, and that you're having some kind of midlife crisis. I laughed. Of course she is. Oh, and she said you begged her to take you back. Apparently she turned you down. I nearly choked on my coffee. It was astonishing how quickly she rewrote the story to protect her ego. Let her talk, I said. The truth has a way of catching up. But I didn't know then how soon that truth would matter. Day 4, the restaurant incident. I started my new job that Monday. Crescent Dominion welcomed me warmly. My office had a view of the city skyline, something my old job never offered. I spent the morning meeting my new team and outlining goals. Around lunchtime, I walked to a nearby restaurant. I was halfway through my sandwich when I felt a familiar presence. Emily. She walked toward my table like she owned the place. Jack, she breathed, as if we were long-lost lovers instead of a broken mess she created. What are you doing here? I asked, keeping my voice low. I just wanted to talk. You haven't answered me. That's intentional. She pulled out a chair and sat down without asking. This is childish, she said. We were together for 2 years. I deserve a conversation. I placed my fork down. You deserve nothing from me. And you definitely don't get to interrupt my lunch. She flinched, then leaned forward. You know I didn't mean those things I said. I was upset. People say things they don't mean. Upset. I repeated. You ended a 2-year relationship in one text message and called me a loser. That wasn't upset, that was honesty. Her eyes hardened, the softness evaporating. You're being cruel, she whispered. You're punishing me. I stood up, placed a 20 on the table, and looked her squarely in the eyes. I'm being clear. Leave me alone. I walked out, but she followed me outside. Jack, stop walking. You think you're better than me now? Because of that car? That job? I didn't even respond. I kept walking until she gave up. But the look she gave me as I walked away, half desperation, half resentment, stayed with me longer than I liked. Day 6, cracks begin to show. 2 days later, my phone buzzed again, unknown number. Ignoring me is emotional abuse. Then. You owe me closure after everything we shared. Then. Fine. If you want to act like this, you will regret it. That last one made me stop cold. It wasn't a threat. Not exactly. But it wasn't harmless either. I showed the messages to Tom that night during our usual Thursday meetup. He read them, exhaled, and said, Jack, this isn't just regret anymore. This is obsession. I know, I said quietly. An obsession rarely ends with a friendly conversation. Day 7, the breaking point. I stopped by the grocery store after work. I opened my trunk to load my bags and froze. Emily's car was parked 3 spots down. Engine off. No movement. Just sitting there. Watching. I didn't approach her. I didn't wave. I didn't acknowledge her presence. I simply got in my car and drove away. But my heart was pounding the entire trip home. That night, I sat in the dark of my living room, the glow of the streetlights filtering through the blinds. I realized something important. Emily didn't miss me. She missed the life she thought she lost. The comfort. The security. The version of me she believed she controlled. And now that she couldn't have it, she was unraveling. This wasn't guilt. This wasn't remorse. This was possession disguised as regret. And I had the sickening feeling that things were only going to get worse from here. After the grocery store incident, I tried convincing myself it was just a coincidence. Seattle is big, but habits overlap, paths cross, people run into each other. It happens. But the following week erased any doubt. On Monday morning, as I walked toward the Crescent Dominion building, a familiar voice pierced the air behind me. Jack. I turned sharply. Emily stood on the sidewalk, hair perfectly curled, makeup done, wearing a coat far too thin for January. What are you doing here? I asked, keeping my tone neutral. I wanted to congratulate you, she said, holding up a paper bag. I brought you coffee. The way you like it. You shouldn't be here, I said. This is my workplace. Oh, come on, she laughed lightly, trying to sound charming. Don't act like I'm a stranger. You are a stranger, I said. And you need to leave. A few co-workers passed us, glancing awkwardly. Emily's smile faltered. You don't have to be rude, she whispered. I'm trying to be nice. But I walked past her without another word. Inside the lobby, the receptionist gave me a concerned look. Is everything okay, Mr. Morgan? Yes, I lied. Just someone I used to know. But my chest felt tight. This wasn't normal. This wasn't random. This was escalation. Tuesday, the parking lot. The next day, I left work at dusk, the sky bruised with fading light. As I approached my car, my stomach dropped. Emily's sedan was parked right behind mine, close enough to block me in. I froze, scanning the lot. She emerged from the driver's seat like she'd been waiting for the cue. Jack, she said breathlessly, we need to talk. No, I said firmly. Move your car. I will. Just please listen. She stepped closer, eyes red, mascara smudged. I know I messed up. I know I shouldn't have said what I said. But you can't just erase 2 years. You erased them, I said. You threw them out the window the moment my paycheck disappeared. She shook her head frantically. I didn't mean it. I panicked. My father left us with nothing, and I swore I'd never depend on a man who couldn't provide. That's not my problem, I said calmly. Your trauma doesn't justify your cruelty. Emily's expression shifted, hurt morphing into anger. So you're punishing me? Because I told the truth, she snapped. No. I'm protecting myself from someone who can't decide whether she wants to love me or worship my bank account. Her shoulders tensed. She stared at me long, dark, seething before storming back to her car and peeling out of the lot. I stood there for a minute, steadying my breath. This was no longer just uncomfortable. It was unsafe. Wednesday, the work interference. The next afternoon, my desk phone rang. Mr. Morgan, the receptionist said quietly, there's a woman downstairs insisting she needs to see you. She's quite emotional. My blood ran cold. Do not let her in, I said immediately. And please notify security. There was a pause. She said she's your girlfriend. She isn't, I said sharply. And I don't want her here. Within minutes, Megan Price from HR called me into her office. She had already watched the lobby footage, Emily crying, begging, refusing to leave until security escorted her outside. Jack, Megan said gently, this is serious. Has this happened before? I hesitated. Then I told her everything, every message, every new number, every accidental run-in that wasn't accidental at all. Megan's expression hardened. We're filing a workplace no-contact notice, she said. And if she returns, we'll formally warn her. But Jack, this is crossing into harassment. I exhaled shakily. I know. Have you considered legal action? She asked. Not yet. Not then. But the question planted a seed. Thursday, poker night disaster. Every month, I meet with 3 friends from college for poker night. It's been our ritual for over 20 years. That night, we gathered at my apartment, chips on the table, beers open, old rock music humming in the background. The doorbell rang. We weren't expecting anyone. I checked the peephole. Emily. Of course. She was holding a bottle of wine, wrapped in a red bow like this was some kind of romantic gesture. Jack, she called softly, I know you're in there. I heard your voice. My friends fell silent. Is that? Tom whispered. Yep, I muttered. I cracked the door chain still on. Leave, I said. Now. You have people over, she asked, peering past me. Why didn't you invite me? We used to do nights like this. We didn't, I said. And you need to go. Her eyes flicked to Tom, then to the others behind him. Her face flushed with humiliation. You're unbelievable, she hissed. You're acting like I'm some kind of danger. Emily, I said quietly, you are a danger to my peace. She recoiled like I'd struck her. This isn't over, she snapped, voice sharp, brittle. You owe me a conversation. I owe you nothing. She stormed off, heels cracking against the hallway tile. My friend stared at me for a long moment. Jack, Tom said gently, this is no longer ex-girlfriend drama. This is harassment. You need to protect yourself. For the first time, I fully agreed. The moment everything changed. That night, after everyone left, I sat alone at the kitchen counter. One thought kept circling. Emily wasn't trying to fix anything. She was trying to control everything. Her panic wasn't about losing me. It was about losing access to the life she thought she could rely on. And when people like that lose access, they don't let go. They tighten their grip. It was time to do something I never imagined I'd have to do. Involve the law. Filing the paperwork felt surreal. I never imagined I'd be the type of man who needed a protection order against someone I'd once loved. But love wasn't what Emily was acting on anymore if it ever had been. This was desperation with sharp edges. And desperation, when cornered, becomes dangerous. Attorney Karen Mitchell, the one Megan recommended, met me in her office 2 days after the poker night incident. She reviewed every screenshot, every voicemail, every photo of Emily sitting in her car outside my building. When she finished, she looked at me over her glasses. "Jack," she said quietly, "this is not normal breakup behavior. This is harassment. You have more than enough for a temporary protection order." I exhaled, the breath heavy with months of exhaustion. "Will the judge grant it?" "Almost certainly." So we filed. The hearing. The hearing was set for the following Wednesday morning. I didn't sleep the night before. I kept pacing around my apartment, replaying conversations, moments of kindness, moments of cruelty, wondering where exactly everything had gone wrong. Tom came with me for support. Karen greeted us in the hallway outside the courtroom, confident as ever. Then Emily arrived. She looked smaller than usual. Not physically, but in presence. Her mother, Donna, accompanied her, holding her arm like a child who'd scraped her knee. Emily's eyes flicked to mine, searching for something: fear, guilt, regret. I gave her nothing. Inside, the courtroom was quiet. The judge, a woman in her 60s with a cool, decisive demeanor, called our case. "Mr. Morgan," she said, "you're seeking a protection order against Ms. Parker. Please present your evidence." Karen stood. "Your Honor, we have documented repeated unwanted contact, attempts to approach Mr. Morgan at his home, workplace, and public spaces, as well as an incident interfering with his employment. We also have text messages indicating escalating emotional volatility." Emily's lawyer, clearly inexperienced, rose quickly. "Your Honor, this is simply a case of miscommunication between two adults who recently ended a long-term relationship. My client's attempts to contact Mr. Morgan were not harassment, they were efforts at reconciliation." The judge turned her gaze to me. "Mr. Morgan, please speak in your own words." I swallowed, stood, and took a steady breath. "Your Honor, I ended the relationship the moment Emily insulted and abandoned me at the lowest point of my career. I made it clear I didn't want contact. Since then, she has texted me dozens of times from multiple numbers, shown up outside my home, blocked my car in a parking lot, and twice tried to enter my workplace. I've never responded except to tell her to stop." Karen handed the judge a folder. "Screenshots, timestamps, photographs," she said. The judge flipped slowly through the pages. Her expression hardened with each turn. She closed the folder and looked at Emily. "Ms. Parker, did you continue contacting Mr. Morgan after he asked you to stop?" Emily rose shakily. "Two just wanted closure. I wasn't trying to hurt him." "That's not what I asked," the judge said sharply. "Did you continue contacting him after he asked you to stop?" Emily's eyes darted, panic creeping into her voice. "I mean, yes, but only because." "Did you go to his workplace?" Silence. "Did you approach his colleagues and attempt to speak with him inside the building?" Emily's lawyer stepped in. "Your Honor." The judge raised a hand, silencing him. "If you interrupt again, counsel, I'll hold you in contempt." Emily swallowed hard. Yes, I went there. But I didn't mean. Intent is not the issue, the judge said. Behavior is. Donna, her mother, leaned forward as if to tug her daughter back into herself, but it was too late. The judge turned to me. Mr. Morgan, do you feel unsafe? I didn't hesitate. I feel harassed, Your Honor. And I feel she won't stop unless legally required to. The judge nodded, already writing. The decision. Based on the evidence, she said, I'm granting the protection order for a period of 1 year. Ms. Parker, you are prohibited from contacting Mr. Morgan by any means, approaching his residence, workplace, or any location you know he frequents. Violation of this order may result in arrest. Emily's face crumpled. You can't do this, she whispered. You're ruining everything we had. The judge didn't look up. Ms. Parker, he is not ruining anything. He is enforcing a boundary you repeatedly ignored. When the judge dismissed us, the bailiff motioned for us to leave separately. In the hallway, Donna approached me despite Karen stepping forward defensively. You should be ashamed, Donna hissed. Emily loved you. I looked her directly in the eyes. If that's her version of love, I want no part of it. Donna's lips tightened. She said nothing more. Emily stood behind her, shaking, staring at me with a mixture of grief and rage as if I'd stolen something from her. But she'd lost me long before the court order. Long before the Lexus. Long before the bonus. She lost me the moment she valued comfort over character. Tom put a hand on my shoulder. You okay? I nodded slowly. Yeah, I said. For the first time in months, yeah, I think I am. The day after the hearing, I woke up earlier than usual. Not because of stress, because of quiet. A quiet that didn't feel heavy or suffocating. A quiet that felt earned. For the first time in months, no unknown numbers called me. No texts appeared in the middle of the night. No car was idling under my bedroom window. The silence wasn't empty. It was peaceful. I made myself a real breakfast: eggs, toast, coffee, and sat by the window watching the city slowly wake. The winter sunlight reflected off the buildings, pale and soft, and for the first time since losing my job, since losing Emily, and since losing the version of my life I thought I needed, I felt present. That's when I realized something important. Peace isn't loud. It doesn't announce itself. It settles in quietly once you remove everything that disturbs it. A new rhythm. Work at Crescent Dominion took off quickly. My team respected me. Linda, the CEO, trusted me. And I rediscovered what it felt like to enjoy my work, not just grind through it. One afternoon, a month after the court hearing, I received an email from Megan in HR. Just confirming, Ms. Parker has not attempted contact again. I stared at the message for a moment. Relief washed over me like warm water. She was gone. For real this time. Or maybe she wasn't gone. Maybe she just couldn't reach me anymore. There's a difference. Rebuilding a life, not a defense. Slowly, my life stopped being a fortress. I no longer took different routes home. I didn't check over my shoulder every time I parked. I didn't brace myself every time my phone buzzed. I got back to things I'd forgotten. I loved walking by the waterfront, reading in the evenings, cooking new recipes, talking to my neighbors instead of rushing inside. And somewhere in the middle of that gentle rebuilding, something unexpected happened. I met Laura Reed, a friend of one of Tom's colleagues. We were introduced at a small gathering, nothing fancy, just a few people and a pot of chili on a Sunday night. She was warm without trying to impress me. She laughed easily. She asked questions because she was genuinely curious, not because she was building some internal checklist of my qualifications. She told me she'd been a graphic designer for 30 years. She told me she loved old black and white movies and early morning walks. She told me she didn't care much for luxury cars but appreciated a reliable heater and a good cup of coffee. She didn't ask what I made. She didn't ask why my last relationship ended. She didn't ask what kind of car I drove. I didn't realize how unusual that was until later. We exchanged numbers. No pressure. No expectations. A week later, we had coffee. 3 weeks later, dinner. 2 months later, we were walking hand in hand through Pike Place Market, laughing about some ridiculous vendor trying to sell tourists vintage fish-throwing certificates. Life felt light again. The message that never deserved a reply. One night, I got a text from an unfamiliar number. Only one line. I hope you know you ruined everything we could have had. I didn't need to ask who it was. I deleted it without hesitation. Because for the first time, I truly understood. I didn't ruin anything. She did. I simply refused to rebuild what she shattered. The real ending. People think revenge is loud shouting matches, grand gestures, dramatic moments that could fit into a movie climax. But the older you get, the more you discover. Revenge is quiet. Revenge is living well. Revenge is peace. Emily lost access to my life not because a judge said so, but because she treated it like something disposable. She left when she thought I was sinking. She returned when she realized I wasn't sinking at all. But you can't abandon a man at his lowest and expect a place in his highest. In the end, the protection order wasn't the real victory. The real victory was waking up every day without fear, without noise, without the weight of someone else's insecurities pressing into my spine. The real victory was walking next to someone who chose me for who I was, not what I could provide. As winter melted into spring and the city thawed, I found myself smiling more, laughing more, breathing more freely. I hadn't regained the life I lost. I had built a better one. And for the first time in a long time, it belonged entirely to me.